My name is Father Kevin Robb. I'm the Associate Vice President for Mission and Ministry. I'm the chair of the Smith Fellowship Program Selection Committee, and I also am the director of the program. I'm the one that makes sure that everything gets put together so our students can head off all over the world. I welcome you to this, our third presentation this week by the Summer 2013 Smith Fellows. On Tuesday evening, we had what I called the Down Under presentation by Kate Mulvihill, who spent 6 weeks, mostly in Sydney, Australia, working with the Dominican Sisters of Eastern Australia and the Solomon Islands. And then with our two fellows who spent a little time in Sydney and then headed out to the Solomon Islands to spend 4 weeks working with Bishop Chris Cardone, Dominican friar, a graduate of Providence College, a member of our Dominican province of St. Joseph, who went off to the Solomons as a very young priest and within a few years became a bishop. And he's now Bishop of Auki in the Solomon Islands. And there are several native Dominican sisters of Eastern Australia and the Solomon Islands who are also there. Yesterday afternoon, we had a presentation by 3 Smith Fellows. Melissa Scott, who told us about her time on a personal study and research fellowship in Avila, Spain. She presented such a travel log that I'm not sure how much time she spent in the library. And then Emily Rears and Mary McDermott presented on their 4 weeks in Nagpur, India, the very geographical center of the Indian subcontinent. And they were working with the Dominican friars of the Indian province in a residence for orphaned boys, ranging, kindergarten to grade 12, something like that, the whole range. And they worked with the staff there and presented a wonderful presentation on their life and travels in India. Tonight, it's the South African experience. Amanda Haluga and Heidi Freitzel are bubbling to tell us about their 6 weeks, mostly in Pietermaritzburg, South Africa, which is near Durban, which is on the Indian Ocean. And then Dave O'Connor will talk about his 6 weeks plus working with the Dominicans in Springs, South Africa, which is outside of Johannesburg. And then he did a few other things in Cape Town. There's one more fellow, Molly O'Donoghue, and she'll be making a presentation on Saturday, October the 5th, in conjunction with St. Dominic weekend, talking about her experience outside of Port-au-Prince, Haiti, at the Louverture Cleary School. We had 10 fellows this year, bringing the total number of Smith Fellows spread over 5 summers to 32. These fellowships have been funded completely through donations from a past member of the Board of Trustees and several current members of the Board of Trustees, plus other donors. It's a great gift given by not much more than 2 handsful of people who have made possible these fellowships around the world. So I welcome you. And I'm going to turn it over to Heidi and Amanda.
So I am Heidi. I am a 4th year at PC. Okay. My name's Heidi. I am a 4th year here at PC. I am a sociology major, music minor, and I found this opportunity a few years ago through friends that had gone to Kenya, and I decided that I really wanted to go to Africa too. I'd always felt some desire to go to Africa. Unfortunately, Kenya wasn't an option because of political unrest going on there, so I decided that I I still wanted to go to Africa. So like any other intellectual scholar, I turned to Google, and I Googled Dominicans in South Africa, and I came up with an email for Father Joe, and we were able to establish a relationship. It was kind of a strange email I've never sent before. Hi, my name's Heidi. Would you host me for 6 weeks if I get this presentation, if I get this fellowship? But we established a really great relationship via email. I learned about a couple of their ministries. They have a ministry in chaplaincy, in the university chaplaincy, as well as they have a Sinamlando Center, which is an organization that was founded by one of the brothers down there.
Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm also a senior here at PC, and I discovered the Smith Fellowship through some friends as well who had actually gone to Australia. And as a psychology major and just a person who really wanted to travel but hadn't gotten the chance to go abroad before, this couldn't have sounded better to me. So I was looking all over the place, and I talked to Father Rob, and I talked to a bunch of other people about what place might fit well for me. And I spoke with my friend Heidi and decided that South Africa was something that I wanted to do. I knew that I had always wanted to go to Africa as well. And if you'd asked me a couple years ago if South Africa was going to be my first time abroad, I probably would have laughed. But it couldn't have been a better experience, and I couldn't have found a better fit in the same way that Heidi did.
So we embarked on our 20-plus hours of traveling. Our first flight, our second flight, actually. Our first flight was very nice. Our second flight was very crowded. But I happened to sit next to a PC alum, of all things, on this entire flight. So I sat next to Legina, who was actually a very reputable dentist, and we had a very long time to chat, so that was great. And then we got on this teeny little thing. I'm also being photobombed by the pilot, if you can see in the corner. So this was when we landed in Pietermaritzburg on something that was smaller than my driveway at home. It was very small. I thought it was an emergency landing. So we finally got to Pietermaritzburg. We were picked up by Brother Philippe, who had also talked with online, and he is the founder of the Sinamlando Center, which we're going to be talking about later as well.
So when we arrived, Brother Philippe took us directly to the community at Emapatoweni Dominican Priory, which is where we would spend our next 5 weeks with some of the most amazing people we could have asked to have spent our time with. We immediately met everyone in the community, which included 12 student brothers, the prior, and the student master. Slightly overwhelmed, we dove right into community life. Our first night, we listened to one of the brothers work with a local newspaper called The Witness, and we were so embraced by everyone in that community. Our everyday lives were just kind of incorporated into theirs, and we went to daily mass with them every night. They'd take us on errands that they ran, and they just took us all over, showed us all over the town, and it was wonderful how they welcomed us and embraced us. Here are some pictures of the beautiful chapel that we were lucky enough to have mass in every day.
It was very interesting, actually. The chapel was round, so it was a very interesting atmosphere. We didn't really know where to sit at first because it was round, but it was very indicative of the community and the spirit that we felt there. Everyone was always included, and everyone is at the same level, so it was very interesting. This is Father Paco and Father Joe, who welcomed us into their community. Father Joe is the prior there. And this was the last night they threw us a going-away party, and we had brought some PC mugs, and then they also gave us a gift, which was really nice. It was a hat for our safari.
So that's the prior, Father Joe, and the student master, Father Paco. And here are just a couple pictures of us with the community in all that we did with them. And that was from our going-away party, and this is from when we attended a Youth Day celebration at the Brothers Seminary. And these are the ladies who are no less part of the community. Auntie Pat, the lady who cooks, and Jackie, the secretary at the priory. So all wonderful people and part of what we call our South African family.
So most of our work was done with the Cinemlando Center. It is a non-profit organization founded by Brother Philippe, who actually came from Belgium originally about 20 years ago to South Africa, and he is part of the community there. He has a very interesting story. He started his work in the beginning of his career as a brother, was working with children in an orphanage, and he decided that most of the children, they really needed a place to go. They needed a home instead of staying in an orphanage. So he started placing children in homes. He was able to start to encourage people to start adopting them. For whatever reason, if an adoption never worked out or if a child just never found a placement, he decided that he would take them into his home. So with the blessing of the South African Dominicans, he purchased a house, started a foundation, and has raised 7 children, and is now also has 2 granddaughters who we got to hang out with and play and babysit with a few times. So we had a really great time with them. Through that work, he founded the Cinemlando Center. Cinemlando means we have a history in Zulu, which is the native language. He found that most children in the African culture, if they were abandoned, they really didn't know where they were. And it's indicative for all children around the world, but they didn't know where they were. They were in an orphanage. Some of them didn't know why. And then a lot of times in the African culture, children are seen but not heard. So if a parent were to pass away of HIV or AIDS or any other disease, the child might not know that the parent has actually passed away. They might be told that the parent is on a long trip, and all of a sudden they're in a house with a grandmother and aunt and a few cousins, and they don't really know where their own parents are. So Brother Philippe started this organization to help establish mental resiliency in children through memory work. So they work with children to start those conversations with their caretakers and their families about where they come from, who really are they, and their history, which isn't always something that is talked about very often in an African household.
So the mission of the Cinemlando Center was to embrace the history of each individual and to really delve into the past, which is something that we got to do for ourselves and also facilitate with children and caregivers in the area. So through the work with memory boxes, as Heidi referenced, which is just a box. This is the big one that was in the Cinemlando office, but each child would go home with their own memory box, and it would be just a place to keep special things, family heirlooms, documents, letters, pictures, things to really help them remember where they came from in order to move forward with confidence in their lives. So in our work at the Cinemlando Center, we spent 1 week learning all about everything they do. The wonderful women that we worked with walked us through all their activities and the ways that they run their workshops in order to help us learn how to co-facilitate the workshops that we'd be working with. Then we co-facilitated a caregiver workshop in a township in Durban, which allowed us to dive right into a community of women who acted as community caregivers and went out into the community, into families, and helped to initiate these discussions about where people came from and really help build these bonds between families based on the work that Brother Philippe established in the Cinemlando Center. And finally, these are pictures from the caregiver workshop in the township, and here are some of the wonderful ladies that we were lucky enough to associate with and get to know. There was a bit of a language barrier with the caregivers, and even more so with the children that we were able to come across, but they were so welcoming, and even these ladies would, if someone made a joke or something, they would translate it for us so that we could laugh too. They were so good to us and really embraced us as members of their community. And then our last week, we were lucky enough to get to work at a children's workshop in which we got to really put all of the things that we had learned into practice with working with children. Every one of these children were HIV positive, and quite frankly, were some of the most incredible children I have ever met. We did everything from memory boxes to different activities like important people in my life genograms, everything pointing toward learning where they'd come from and how to move forward and getting to know each other a little bit. I've never seen children support each other as well as they did, and even welcome these two girls who just came out of nowhere and were there to help out. And I actually have a little bit of video for you. I was lucky enough to celebrate my birthday while we were there, and these children could not have made it more special. So all I can say about that is I have never been so humbled. These people with so many of their own hardships and all of their own things going on, to do that for me was one of the most humbling experiences of my life. Absolutely.
So these are the women we worked with. There are other members of the organization, but on our last day, we sat down with them and did a little review of our internship with them. Lois is on the end and on the far end, and she was the one that mainly took us out each time to the different areas. We were never working. They have an office, but we only work there the first week. They always work on location in the communities that they're trying to help. So we were always going in different directions, which was really great for us because we got to see different parts of the area as well. Nokaya here is the executive director of the organization now. Brother Philippe has coached her into this position, and she does really well with it. So we were really glad to have these women as mentors, as our teachers, and also as our fellow friends now. So we had a really great time with them. And they took us out for breakfast on the last day.
So in addition to our work at Cinemlando and in our community, on all of our days off or any days that we got home from work early or something, we were always asked, hey, we have to run an errand in Marion Hill, let's go see the monastery, or we have to run an errand over here, come, we'll show you this mountain range or this waterfall. And everyone was so gracious in showing us the area. So one of these women, Marie Chantal, right next to me, was this wonderful lady who is a lay Dominican, so very associated with the community, who kind of took us under her wing and became our South African grandmother, even though she is also from Belgium, with Brother Philippe. So she had a close relationship with him, and we really got to know her, and she took us all over and showed us so many wonderful places. So we wanted to recognize her a little bit in here.
We went to the Marion Hill Monastery with Father Joe. The Marianites originally were Trappists from Germany. They came to South Africa and realized that there was a real need for evangelization among the Zulu people. And as Trappists, their style of life would not really be conducive to that. So they changed their order and they became the Marianites of Marion Hill. They have a carpenter shop, they do a printing press, they have a large repository. The reason we were there was to pick up ordination cards for Brother Dominic, who is now Father Dominic. So we were able to go with Father Joe. He showed us around. It was also a retreat center, so we were kind of taking notes because we do retreats here, and we were hoping to bring a retreat there, but Gail said that might not work. But yeah, it was a really good experience, and it was fun to be able to see different orders as well while we were there.
We were also lucky enough to get to visit the Dominican Sisters of Montebello, where Father Paco spent some time with them and then decided to take us out there to meet them. So these women were absolutely wonderful and do so much wonderful work, including running a hospital and a long-term care facility for people who are handicapped or ill and otherwise have no place to go. They actually were shut down by the government. Their funding was cut off, and yet they still are taking care of the ones who have no place to go. And it was just an amazing experience getting to see the work that they do and getting to see some of the people that they work with as well. This is a little boy named Kolani who really helped brighten up an otherwise rather difficult day, because some of the people there are in tough shape, and it was difficult to see, but very eye-opening and wonderful to experience things like this little boy's smile.
We also did a safari. This picture was taken from a community within the Drakensberg Mountains. One of Marie Chantal's friends works with the community and really helps them to encourage them to community organize. So that was a really interesting thing to see. We got to go to one of their meetings and see how they're dealing with an issue right now, and it was really a great experience to go see how they're working with that within their community. And it was a beautiful setting as well. So this was the picture from that. After we left Pietermaritzburg, we went up to Johannesburg for one day, and we embarked on a 4-day safari, which was great. I've never seen so many zebras and giraffes and rhinos and hippos.
That is absolutely true. So many. And just an absolutely amazing, beautiful scenery, absolutely amazing experience. But honestly, I'm not even sure it came close to our time with the amazing people we worked with. But it is absolutely an experience that I'll never forget. So personally, these 6 weeks in South Africa were 6 of the greatest weeks of my life. The most humbling, the most educational, and the most enjoyable. I truly feel like I learned so much from and with those that I served and those I served with. And I feel like we both left with a family over there. One that I really hope that we don't lose touch with. We've been lucky enough to be able to stay in touch with the brothers and fathers in the Emapeltaweni community, and I do hope that we stay in touch with them and even continue to have a relationship with them through the Smith Fellowship. So I know that this fellowship taught me lessons that I couldn't have even imagined, and hopefully has even taught me where I would like to go in my life beyond Providence College. So I could not be more thankful for such an incredible gift.
I just have to echo everything that she just said. It was a really great experience. I had just come off of 4 months of studying abroad, and so getting on another plane was just kind of like not a big thing. But walking off the plane from South Africa, I felt so much more different and so much more fulfilled than I did when I came back from Vienna. And I love my time in Vienna. It was a very different purpose for me to be there. But we just had a really great time. We learned a lot, we were able to share a lot, and we gained a lot more than I think we were able to give them. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Are we doing questions?
Good evening. My name is Dave O'Connor. I'm a senior, obviously at Providence College, public and community service major and business studies minor. Last week I was told this phrase, when God winks. And after this experience, it was definitely evident that throughout this time, God has been winking at me, and my dad, who had passed away when I was 15, and my grandparents have been nudging me along to go on this great, amazing spiritual journey. So it actually started out in high school. A good friend of mine, Patricia Carroll, told me she was going to Kenya. and I didn't know at the time that she was actually going on the fellowship. And then sophomore year, my really good friend Claire Carroll said, "Hey Dave, I'm going to the Solomon Islands." And I was like, "What? You got a great experience that I didn't know about?" And so then last year, after talking to Claire, she went to the Solomon Islands. I was really inspired to follow her steps and to apply. And in a lot of weird ways and amazing ways that you may not be able to understand, but I've been reflecting on, I was sent to South Africa. And Heidi actually, I'd always wanted to go to South Africa, and Heidi doesn't know this, but she was the first one of us to ask to go to South Africa and really inspired me to go there. Father Smith himself is from Prince Edward Island, where I've been summering since I was 10 years old. Prince Edward Island is a huge part of me. So when I found out Father Smith himself was from Prince Edward Island, that was another connection. When I was trying to find Dominicans in South Africa, the Dominicans I emailed were actually located in Ireland, which for me, I'm an O'Connor. Ireland is again, something that I relate to. These little things kind of helped me realize that I was going in the right path. And along my journey, other things had come up. So, what did I do in South Africa? I actually went to South Africa for 2 months. I went for a week in Cape Town to kind of get something to compare to, because I knew that I was going to be going to a very rural place outside of Johannesburg called Springs. Cape Town, when you think of Africa, is a very, very different place. Cape Town is very mixed with Indian, European, American, and African mixtures. This is Cape Town, a beautiful island. This is on the way back from Robben Island, which is where Nelson Mandela, was imprisoned. And Nelson Mandela actually, when we were there, he was the talk of every South African because he's very ill. So I'm going to start off with kind of what I did besides the fellowship, and then I'm going to really dive into that. So for the first week, I went to Cape Town, and Cape Town's gorgeous. You get to go hiking, and there's some really, really amazing people. This is a man outside of Green Market Square. He actually is blind, and he was playing the guitar to make money, and he's actually selling CDs. And these are some of the inspirational people that I was able to interact with on my way. Hanging out in Green Market Square, before I went on to my fellowship, I met these guys from Senegal. I actually had studied abroad in Senegal for 5 weeks and was able to talk to them in Wolof. And I really got to engage in their culture and ended up buying this chair, which is located, which is the chair that he sat on all the time. So I have these little things to kind of remind me of those people. After my fellowship, I had applied for a 3-week internship at Amanla EDU Football, which works in Khayelitsha. Khayelitsha is a township right outside of Cape Town. Amanla EDU Football works on life skills and football for youth in Khayelitsha, which is known for its violence and poverty. I also got to go to Shark Alley and the Cape of Good Hope. And now I have a short video to show you.
You were sent to us, not by the college, but I think you were sent to us by God.
This past summer, I had the opportunity to travel back to Africa with the Father Smith Fellowship. In May, I headed to South Africa to live and work with the Dominican friars. I was welcomed by a diverse group of friars ranging from all ages, backgrounds, and areas of interest. While there, I focused most of my time working at the St. Martin de Porres Development Project, a project created by Brother Dominic, a Dominican born in Zimbabwe. St. Martin's works mainly with orphaned and vulnerable children, offering meals, recreation, and most importantly, giving them hope.
It's gonna feel real good, gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. As I turn up the collarbone, my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. See the kids in the street, without enough to eat, when I be blind.
St. Martin's is also a mediator for the government, offering assistance to 4 townships, making sure that each child is accounted for and being taken care of. When I arrived to the plot, as we call it, I was happily surprised to see a developing farm. Brother Dominic and many others that I got to know are working patiently to improve the farm so that I can provide for the community, as well as teach the children lessons in agriculture and growth. Before heading to South Africa, I reached out to friends and family to donate sports jerseys and equipment. Despite only a short time between my study abroad and the fellowship, I received tons of donations, which filled up 2 suitcases. After withholding the donations for a period of time to make sure we utilized them properly, I quickly became the T-shirt man. Besides working at St. Martin's, I had many other unique opportunities. From being interviewed by Father Emil on the South African Catholic radio station Radio Veritas, to surprising fellow students Amanda and Heidi in Peter and Maritzburg, as well as taking a part in a deaf mass presided by Father Mark, and taking a spontaneous road trip to Malawi with the friars to bear witness at the ordination of Father Brian. While in Malawi, I was introduced to Dominican sisters from Zambia and Zimbabwe. On our way back to South Africa, we stayed the night at the convent where St. John's High School is located. It is here that I was able to see another opportunity to connect the Providence College Friars to another Dominican school. Currently, I'm working with the missions to reach out to our fellow Dominican students in Zimbabwe. Since this was the first time the Father Smith Fellowship occurred in South Africa, Heidi, Amanda, and myself were keen on creating lasting relationships as well as trying to figure out new routes for students to pursue. We hope you will continue the work that we have done and add your own style to the mix.
Yesterday, during your farewell party, one little girl said some words which I repeated yesterday, and I want to repeat to you again. That she said to you, David, thank you very much. These are my own words now to interpret what she said. Thank you very much for coming to us and all you've done for us. And we want you to come back again. But if you don't, wherever you're going to go, to other people, other children, do to them as you did for us. And she was very grateful. I was touched by what she said. She was very grateful. So, without saying so many words, I'm grateful that you came. You are a very humble young man, and we have a lot to learn from you than we had to learn from us. So when you get back to Providence, to the Dominicans, to the students, to your professors, take them our greetings and that we appreciate what they have taught you. And I think I also want to bring into this picture your mother, your family. Because whatever you have given us, we got it from your background, from your mother, and give her our greetings. Thank you very much, David.
I would like to thank everyone who contributed to my 6 weeks with the Dominicans. From Providence College, the donors, the fellowship committee, Father Rob, all the friars that welcomed me into their home, and especially these smiling faces, which I was blessed to get to know.
Sorry. One of the priests I lived with, Father Albert, who actually was very involved in the apartheid, and actually had to go incognito during the apartheid because he was, because he was very and radical and really voiced his concerns about the injustices going on. But Father Albert publishes the Bua Bua, so I'll pass these around. And one of them is actually talks about the project that I worked on, and then another one it has Father Emil, who I was interviewed with on Radio Veritas. This is also a painting that was customized from the internship I did in Cape Town. Sam, who's from Tanzania, was one of the artists in Green Market Square that I got to know just from going there and hanging out with the guys. And I got a lot of artwork from him, and I thought this was kind of a cool piece that represented some of the work that actually Franklin and Marshall students intern there as well. So it just kind of ties in all the different nations that affect one community. And then I'm not sure if you noticed, but there are some tires in this video. So originally, my plan was to go and to do some sports stuff, which I ended up doing, and then some talent program. And they had kind of a talent program going on. So I really wanted to create something that I could leave behind, and that the kids would see and remember that there's this whole other community that is thinking about them. So seeing how resourceful these kids would be playing cars with bricks, and they'd be building houses out of sticks and bricks in the sandpit, and just seeing how resourceful they were, I was really inspired to use that resourcefulness in a way to create something for them. So I came up with the idea of there's tires all over South Africa, and they end up burning them a lot, which is obviously not healthy. So what we did is collected tons and tons of tires, and I worked with the kids to come up with a playground of sorts, something that they can continue to do while I'm gone, and they can paint. And I'm still I still remain in contact with the head of the grounds, Blessing and Percy, and Brother Dominic, to make sure that that is getting done. And I would love in the future, if somebody does follow in my footsteps, for them to continue this, and every year kind of build it up. And also I'm not really a tech person, but I worked on a website that I'm not going to show you, but I'll pass it along to Father Rob. It's not finished yet, but it's an opportunity for them to kind of be broadcasted on a more global level. They do a ton of great work, but they don't have the funds to advertise. And Brother Dominic he's very invested in the day-to-day needs right now, and he doesn't have the resources to really go out and advertise. So if you guys can check that out, and if you'd like to advertise, the money would be sent directly there and would really be impactful. I guess on a last note, to be honest, when I was going on the fellowship, I thought it was just going to be an awesome trip, and I get to see another part of the world. But it was much more than that. It was a very spiritual journey. And also, you're here at I'm here at Providence College, and I don't know the difference between going to a Dominican Catholic college and not going to a Dominican Catholic college. So I didn't really know what's Dominican and what's Catholic, and then what's just college. So when I was able to live with the Dominicans, I was able to really see the Dominican tradition, and the community that there was, and the going out and researching things, and hearing other sides to issues. And then sort of basically, evidently, our motto, Finding Veritas. And that's something that I will continue to do as I live. And it's something that, although I didn't necessarily learn it here at Providence College, I learned through Providence College, through this fellowship, and through all the funders who realized the necessity of going out to realize what you have back home. So I'd like to thank everybody who was a part of that process, from Claire, Heidi, Father Rob, the fellowship committee, all the funders, my mom, the big man upstairs, God, and it was a really, really powerful journey. And I don't want the conversation to stop here. I really want people to approach me and ask me about my trip. I actually was looking at photos, and I was overwhelmed. I think I have 10,000 photos, 200 videos. So I really want students and faculty to come up to me and ask me questions and challenge me about what I learned there. That's part of what Brother Dominic asked me to do, is, don't forget about us and keep the conversations going. So thank you very much. God bless.
Have any questions they'd like to ask now? You can certainly talk to Heidi and Amanda and David afterwards, and you can always find them on campus, although they're three very busy individuals. Questions? Okay, we'll leave it at that. I want to make a couple comments. The first is, last year, when we were launching the fellowships for summer of 2013, I really encouraged the applicants to search out new Dominican locations that we hadn't been to yet. And I was extremely proud and pleased that 5 of the 10 who received fellowships went to new venues. Mary McDermott and Emily Rears discovered the Indian Dominicans in the very center of the Indian subcontinent. Again, it's interesting what you can do on Google. And then we had the crowd that was interested in South Africa. And very inventive in their Googling and in their correspondence. And yes, I imagine if you write to Father Joe Falconer in Peter Maritzburg and say, "Hi, I'd like to come for 6 weeks," he must have wondered on the other end. But I do want to say these pioneers in the Smith Fellows for this past summer really fulfilled something very important within the fellowships. And that is there are Dominican friars and sisters all around the world, and these 5 found some of them. And I can just see in this South African presentation this evening there was going to be a lot of interest in Peter Maritzburg and Springs in the next round. David mentioned Father Albert Nolan, who edits and publishes this monthly newsletter in Springs. Father Albert Nolan is one of the greats in modern Dominican history. Indeed, he was very much involved in the movement to overcome and destroy apartheid. And indeed, he was declared a public enemy by the white supremacist government. Indeed, he had to go into hiding and operate for years in a very undercover manner. Once apartheid ended, Father Albert could continue his work, but this time, above ground, in the public eye. And we happened to have, I think it was the chapter right here in St. Dominic Chapel in 2001, Albert Nolan came as a delegate from the South African province, maybe even the vice provincial, and he was elected Master of the Order of Preachers. He was elected as the 284th successor to St. Dominic as the head of the worldwide order. And he did something that was never happened before in the 800-year history. Father Nolan asked the provincials and elected delegates from all over the world, all 40-some Dominican provinces, he asked to be relieved of that burden because he was so committed to the people of South Africa and to serving them, improving their lot. He's a well-known writer on the situation in South Africa, and he is one who will always be cherished in the order as someone who committed himself so fully to the liberation of the black peoples in South Africa. So I'm glad you got to meet him. Next week, Tuesday evening at 7, Wednesday afternoon at 4, Thursday evening at 7. We will have the information sessions for the summer 2014 Smith Fellowships. For any of you who would be interested in applying for a fellowship for next summer, all I can say is be at one of those meetings, period. Be at one of those meetings, because it works a hell of a lot better, if you've been to the informational meeting and then begin the process of applying. I thank you for being with us this evening. I am so proud of all 10 of our summer 2014 Smith Fellows. We've had 3 great presentations since Tuesday evening. We can sense the enthusiasm with which our fellows went off to some rather strange places, considering that we're middle class to upper middle class Americans in the Northeast. Off they went. They discovered a lot. They discovered a lot about themselves in discovering other people. And they have fulfilled their commitment to the Smith Fellowship program by coming back to PC and telling their story in presentations such as this. These presentations will be mounted on the Smith Fellowship webpage by early next week. So anyone can tune in and hear these presentations again or hear the other presentations, see them. Also on that web page, all you go is to providence.edu, click on Catholic and Dominican, scroll down a bit, hit the Father Smith Fellowship link, and everything is there. The presentations, the blogs of 30 of the 32 Smith Fellows, they're all still there and active, plus the policies and the guidelines for the 2014 Father Smith Fellowships. So we encourage interest. People want to go back to South Africa, that's a real possibility. People want to dig up Dominicans elsewhere in the world, alive, of course. We can work those out. So again, I thank you, and I thank you, Amanda, and I thank you, David. I thank you, Heidi. I thank you, Emily. And I can see Claire Carroll back there, who was a Kenyan fellow 2 years ago. And the year before that, her sister Patricia, now a graduate of the college, was one of the first to go to the Solomon Islands. So we have a real Smith Fellowship family here. So thank you. God bless. Good night.